Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Yalai, lai, 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 yalai, lai, lai, lai. Yalai, la, lai, lai, yalalai, yalalai, yalai, la, lai, lai, yalai, la, lai, lai, yalai, la, lai, lai, yalalai, yalalai, yalai, la, lai, lai, yalai, yalalai, yalai, la, lai, lai, yalalai, lai, lai.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I hope you take a lot out of this service. Big D's worked really hard to put it together. And I hope everyone that's joining from home, I'm sure that you'll have a great time. And we've all worked really hard and had a lot of fun putting this together. So enjoy.
Thank you, Caleb. Yes, we have done a lot of work. We've done a lot of, had a lot of fun, excuse me. And you even convinced your brother to do the candle lighting. So without further ado, we intro Henry Schultz and Eli Hruska lighting the candles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Thank you so much, Eli. Thank you, Henry. Now we have Jason, who's going to be leading us in a Kabbalah song of Hine Matov, page 128. Jason, you are a fantastic piano player. You're also a mensch. I appreciate you. You guys probably don't know this, but I've taken plenty of pictures over the years, and often when I'm looking for something of my own family, I see you guys. Times that you said something for religious school, or we were saying some silly Hebrew phrase, and it made me smile. It made me think about how different you are now. Still as menschy, still as wonderful, but just in a more grown-up way. Zen will now be leading us in Shalom Aleichem on page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashavret, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seidchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Zan, thank you so much. It's hard to believe you're a senior because I feel like I just got here and you were a youngin' and we were practicing for your bat mitzvah. But I think that somehow you're even better now than you were then. Without further ado, we're on to the next section of our service, transitioned by the Chatzi Kaddish, page 144, Chatzi Kaddish. Please join us. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei Rabba.
Amen.
Yamad yivarach Yeruteh v'yamlich malchuteh.
B'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayedecho b'ed Yisrael. Bagala uv'izman karim. V'imeru.
Amen.
Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach. Le'alam ulam me'amaya. Yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach. V'yipar v'yitromam v'yinaseh. V'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal. Shemei kudesha v'richu. Le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata.
Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran be'alma. V'imeru. Amen. Before we rise for the Baruch Hu, I would like to first of all say Shabbat Shalom and thank all of our Bikti students who are just so menschy, so mature and so responsible, putting together this beautiful service. And I know all of you at home are inspired as I am this evening by our youth. I got to say, it's been a very tough week for the Jewish people. The news from Israel, the news here in the United States, just been a very, very tough week for our people. And I really can't wait to be able to appreciate and enjoy the sounds and sights and just kavanah, the feelings that our young people are bringing tonight. It's the perfect tonic, as Shabbat ought to be, to what has been a very difficult week. And I'm so thrilled this evening that I have an opportunity to introduce Sydney Duncan, whose gorgeous voice will lead us in the Baruch Hu. Please rise now.
La 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 la. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? La 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 la
Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed Le'olam Va'ed. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared?
Sydney, I think you inspired the rabbi and I to feel that moment so strongly that we needed to do the Baruch Hu in that moment. Thank you so much for that. Often in the past and coming up in the future, Rabbi Klein and Rabbi Howard and I will ask our B'nai Mitzvah students to write something for your service for when you become a Bar or Bat Mitzvah. We also do this during confirmation and different services throughout the year. And often they're very, very heartfelt. But this one struck me particularly when I asked Sarah Jagler to write about Ma'ariv Aravim. And I hope you take her words to heart. It's a beautiful poem. Ma'ariv Aravim, poem, Sarah Jagler.
There is a time of calm between night and day, a time to appreciate, a time to breathe. Words cannot describe its beauty, its importance. It doesn't throw us into the darkness alone. It gradually guides us to rest, to restore, and makes the world seem at peace, if only for a moment. In the night, our minds slow down. Those deadlines and stress and worries fade away, leaving just the view of the stars to gaze upon in awe for hours, where our imaginations can run wild and we can pretend we can run on the moon.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I hope one day I can walk on the moon, metaphorically, not in real life.
Page 150, Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Otanu limadeta
Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu uvkumenu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratcha u'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla nege yomam v'layla ahavatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael Ohev amo Yisrael.
And as we affirm God's oneness, we affirm the oneness of our people, the joy of knowing that another generation is coming up behind us, ready to take over, ready to take that mantle of Judaism on their shoulders, to affirm that the presence of God is with us always. We just have to open our eyes and be aware. It's my pleasure to introduce Sarah Jagler, Sydney Duncan, Chloe Buca, and Sophie Sheriff to lead us in the Shema, page 153.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam va'ed.
We continue now with the V'ahavta on page 154, led by Sarah, Sydney, Chloe, and Sophie.
Actually, just Sarah.
Just Sarah is leading us in the
But they
V'ahavta.
would all do a fantastic job
Yeah.
with the Ve'ahavta.
Thank you.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol livshecha ubechol nafshecha ubechol me'odecha ve'hayu hadivarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha unshinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shetecha b'beitecha uvletecha v'aderech u'shachbecha uv'kumecha u'shartam leot al nadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'yisharecha leman tizkeru va'asitem ekol mitzotai V'yitem kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzetechem me'eretz Mitzrayim, lehiyot lahem le'elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Sarah, thank you so much. Beautifully done. Yesher koach. It's my pleasure to now introduce Chloe Buca, who will be leading us in the Michamocha.
Chloe, that was so wonderful. I so appreciated your artistic stylings in the way that you captured that beautiful melody and the way you played it. It got me wanting to play here, but I didn't want to mess up how the audio was going to work together. But you did get me inspired and full of ruach. Also full of ruach is Ellie Blaine and Sophie Sheriff. Sophie is going to share an original poem. And behind that is going to be Ellie Blaine's beautiful oboe playing of the Noah Aronson song, Let There Be Love.
You know that saying, R&R? It stands for rest and recuperation, two very important things that go hand in hand with one another. However, I would suggest that there's room for one more R, reflection. During these periods of rest, I think it's valuable to figure out why you needed to rest in the moment you did. Of course, we all need to take our rests, but there's no timeline. Why today or yesterday or tomorrow? Do you have nothing to do? Did someone tell you to rest now? Are you overwhelmed and need a break? No matter the answer, there is a reason you got there. It is so important to not only find that reason, but to understand it. There's this line in the song Walls by Louis Tomlinson that I really like. It says, "For every question why, you were my because." Of course, this is in the context of a love song, but I still think it's relevant here. This Shabbat, I encourage you to find your because. Take this much needed and deserved break and just reflect. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. Take this moment of rest and just be honest with yourself. For if we are vulnerable in our moments of rest, next week we can be just as successful and kind and generous as we were this week. Maybe more.
Wow. Sophie, as I was putting together these videos at different points, I would hear different things that would pop out at me. And I've probably listened to your video 10, 15, 20 times. And yet I was still able to capture something in that moment that struck me. I think that's the power of our youth that I am no longer a part of, admittedly. It's interesting to look at you all and think about the people who you've been and the people who you are now, but most excitingly, the people who you're going to be. And it's really inspiring to us old folk up here. And I really appreciate all that you are. Ellie, that was beautiful playing. And Sophie, thank you so much for your beautiful poem. Caleb Schultz will now be leading us in Vishamru. Vishamru is all about the day of Shabbat and keeping today sacred and holy.
Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam barit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam barit olam. B'nei Uvein, B'nei Yisrael, Odhi le'olam, Odhi le'olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam barit olam. Ki sheshet yamim Asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam barit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shavat vayinafash, Shavat vayinafash, Shavat vayinafash. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam barit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam barit olam.
Caleb, thank you so much for capturing the joy and the spirit of this beautiful Shabbat, a Shabbat of inspiration, a Shabbat of tikva, of hope. I'd like to now introduce Tyler Buca and Jared Silverman, who will be leading us in the Amidah.
The Amidah is the core of our service. It emphasizes the sacred nature of God and the holiness of God. Being reminded of God's holiness helps us remember the faith that we have in God and the rest of the world. The faith that the scientists are doing everything they can to get us back to normal. the faith that we will be able to hug our grandparents, and the faith that we will soon be able to be together as a community in the temple. Adonai Sifatai Tiftach Ufi Tehillah. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Koneh Ha'akol Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imachut Umevi Geula Livnei V'Nehem Laman Shemo Be'ahava Melach Hoser U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים וחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים. ומחיי אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Tefillah is the heart of our worship service, as Tyler said so eloquently. Tyler, Jared, thank you for chanting so nicely and reminding us that our destination, that our journey should be able to guide us to our destination in a really thoughtful way. Tefillah isn't done by accident. We ask God, let my words be worthy. We remember our ancestors. We remember God's power. And then we remember the day of Shabbat and we keep it sacred. I think one of the things that really inspires me about Bikti is this acts of service that each of you do. So one of the fond memories I have, even though I wasn't there, was hearing you guys talk about a service that you led at the Fall River Jewish Home, where there were maybe 5 people and one of them fell asleep or one of them was asleep the whole time. But there were 25 of you in the picture. And it was a really nice thought to think that you really brightened somebody's day, even if they were sleeping, allowing them to get what they needed and share your time, which is the most valuable thing of all. So thank you for that memory that I'm going to hold tight. And thank you for reminding me that everybody prays differently. On page 174, the Ritzay talks about praying differently. God, let my words be worthy and listen. Allow yourself to go to God. Ritzay Adonai Eloheinu ve'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahava tikabel ותהי לרצון. תמיד עבודת ישראל. ישראל עמך, אל קרוב לכל, קורא פני על עבדיך וכוננו, שפוך רוחך עלינו, ותחזן עינינו בשובך לציון. ברחמים ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיר שכנתו לציון. לציון, לציון, לציון.
The theme of this evening's service is hope, tikva. Hope that even in difficult times, we will see light and come through on the other side. It would be impossible, however, to have hope without first having the experience and feeling of gratitude. With gratitude comes the possibility of blessing, comes the possibility of light, comes the possibility of tikva, of hope. It's my pleasure to introduce Max Jelinek Knight to offer this prayer of gratitude.
This is a quote from attorney and ethics professor Michael Josephson. The world already has enough beautiful mountains and meadows, spectacular skies, and serene lakes. It has enough lush forests, flowered fields, and sandy beaches. It has plenty of stars and the promise of a sunrise and sunset every day. What we need is more people to enjoy it.
Very wise words you quoted, Max. Thank you for doing so in such a sensitive and eloquent way. It is now my pleasure to introduce Philip Stein, who will offer the prayer for peace.
May I rest in peace. I, who am still living, say, may I have peace in the rest of my life. I want peace right now while I'm still alive. I don't want to wait like that pious man who wished for one leg of the golden chair of paradise. I want a four-legged chair, right here, a plain wooden chair. I want the rest of my peace now. I have lived out my life in wars of every kind, battles without and within, close combat, face to face, the faces always, my own, my lover face, my enemy face. Wars with the old weapons, sticks and stones, blunt axe, words, dull ripping knife, love and hate. Wars with newfangled weapons, machine gun, missile, words, landmines exploding, love and hate. I don't want to fulfill my parents' prophecy that life is war. I want peace with all my body and all my soul. Rest me in peace. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam.
Philip, thank you so much, both for your words of peace and your prayer of peace. Shalom Rav. May we have an abundance of peace. May we have so much peace that we find ourselves not the absence of war, but in the presence of justice. Please take a few moments now for a private prayer and for the meditations in your heart.
I learned the word tzimtzum a couple years ago from Rabbi Klein. I'm sure he was giving me amazing advice about allowing there to be room for others in the room. Andy, it's been one of the best lessons I've ever learned. Thank you. And in that moment, in that time, a couple years ago, I saw our youth group shine by allowing their voices to rise above. And then I realized really what we were doing here, that everybody wants to be heard. We need to allow everybody to be heard. And once we do, the magic happens. So please join Zach Weinstein on page 180 for Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Imru, Amen.
As we pray together this evening, we pray for healing. There is so much healing we need to do. healing people's bodies, but more importantly at this time, healing people's souls. It's my pleasure now to introduce Zhao Matic Mark, who will lead us in the Mishaberach, and we're going to also open up the Zoom and see all of our Bikti students live. And they'll offer prayers for healing as well. So Zhao, please take it away.
Hello. So the Misha Berach means the one who blessed, and asks the one who blessed us, or God, to heal those who may need healing, and also to bring peace and well-being to those who may be struggling. And I think that's really important as we move on from the pandemic.
Mishabera avotenu mikor habracham leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu v'kor Abraham le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Zhao, thank you for that beautiful Mishaberach. And we're going to move now to the next portion of our service, which is the Shechianu, a portion of Thanksgiving, a moment when we recognize that our lives are blessed in so many different ways. And I think for this moment of Shechianu, we're going to open it up to our live Bikti students, who are, of course, not only contributing their videos, but watching from home this evening as well, and offering their thoughts on the positive, on what's good and hopeful about their week or about their lives right now. And I see Caleb is with us.
Yes.
And
one of my
yes.
Shahahianu moments. Oh, sorry. One of my Shahahianu moments is a couple of weeks ago. I had my birthday, and I was able to have a nice dinner with my family and see some of my friends, socially distanced, of course. But nonetheless, it was still great to see people and spend some quality time. So I'm grateful for that.
I can go next. So for me, today was senior night for golf, and I was able to play in a varsity match for the first time this year, and I had a really good time.
Wonderful.
I was able to go into school for the first time in a couple months. I got to see a lot of people I haven't seen in a long time.
Beautiful.
My Shahiani moment is that actually right after the service tonight, I'm going to be committing to Brandeis University for college.
Mazel tov.
My Shahiani moment, kind of similar to Tyler, but most people are going back all the time in school, so I get to see a lot of my friends I haven't seen.
I'm just grateful for the health of my loved ones.
Thank you, Sophie. That was really such a beautiful sentiment. And I'd like to add a Shechanu. It was my daughter Addie's 19th birthday yesterday, and we got to celebrate together and had a lot of fun. So Mazel tov to Addie on her 19th birthday.
My kids are actually going back to school on Monday also, just in time for summer. I've been grateful for the time that we've had with them. They're different people than they were a year and a half ago. And so are you. Both you, Bikti, and you watching at home. We're all a little bit different. We're lucky that we made it this far. So think about your Shehechianu. Oh, sorry, Rabbi. I was gonna say find a Shehechianu moment if you don't have one. Dig deep, because that's what this time is for. Please.
And just to introduce once again, Shao Matic Mark to lead us in the Shehechianu.
Okay, well, the Shehechianu means who has given us life, and it expresses our gratitude to God for our life. It reminds us to be grateful for our lives and to remember what we do have.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen.
Thank you so much, Shao. That was beautiful, and I so appreciate your leadership, and of course seeing you each week for high school, which has been really amazing. I'd like to now introduce our featured speaker for this evening. She's going to take over my role, which is lovely for me. So it's Talia Jelinek-Knight, and she has written a Devar Torah about the portion of Shemini in the book of Leviticus. Shemini is not often seen as a parsha of hope, and yet I think you'll find Talia's perspective both fascinating, rabbinically challenging, and I think will stir your heart. Talia, thank you for doing. I have not heard you do it. I've only read your Devar Torah. It's wonderful, and I'm so looking forward to hearing you give it this evening. And for me, finding hope in the portion of Shemini is an amazing feat, and you've done it beautifully. So without further ado, in the spirit of Tzimtzum, I welcome to the Bima Talia Jelinek-Knight with her Devar Torah.
The Torah portion that I'm going to be speaking about today is Parashat Shemini. Many people recognize this portion as the part of the Torah where the kosher laws are introduced, but I'm not going to be talking about that today. Instead, I'm going to be focusing on the messages of hope that are found in this portion. The beginning of Parashat Shemini tells us the story of Aaron and his sons becoming priests. They have spent 7 days celebrating their new jobs, but on their first day of work, lots of bad things happen. First, 2 of Aaron's sons light this strange fire that God had not commanded, and they are killed. To prevent things like this from happening in the future, Moses gives Aaron and his remaining sons new instructions. But unfortunately for Aaron, 2 of his sons don't follow them. They are supposed to eat the sin offering, but instead they burn it. Moses is angry with Aaron's sons. He had given them clear instructions, but they hadn't followed them. After both of these incidents, Aaron is silent. Moses and Aaron then have 2 conversations. In the first conversation, Moses tries to comfort Aaron after the loss of his sons. He tells him not to give up, that they have come so far, that they are now safe and free. Moses also tells him that his sons didn't die because they were evil. They died because, although they were holy, they tried too hard, and their act was wrong. Regardless of Moses' comforting words, Aaron remains silent. Later, they talk again. Moses tells Aaron that because he is the high priest now, he must perform his duties regardless of what he himself is feeling inside. Finally, Aaron breaks his silence, saying, "Would God have been pleased if I had eaten the sin offering today?" One interpretation of this passage is that although he knows that the high priest is not allowed to mourn like an ordinary person, Aaron felt like had he not showed any emotion, he would have appeared heartless to the people, and that being the high priest had denied him of his humanity. After this conversation, Moses is now the one who is silent. To me, this is the most important part of Parashat Shemini. Even though all of these bad things happen, neither Aaron nor Moses ever loses their faith in God. They continue on, trusting that God will bring them a brighter future. But just as importantly, they allow themselves to grieve. This past year has been one for the history books. I know I don't need to remind you of all of the bad things that have happened, but I do want to remind you that it is perfectly okay, and I think important, to feel this grief and sadness. But I also think that hope sometimes slips through the cracks. So I want to take a moment to remind you of all of the good things that happened in the past year. Number 1, fossil fuel emissions decreased significantly during the pandemic, giving the environment a much-needed break. Number 2, animal shelters are now more empty than ever, with people at home adopting animals. Number 3, the 2020 election saw the biggest voter turnout in 120 years and led to historic wins for LGBTQ people and women of color. Number 4, people all over the world rose up to protest racial injustice, and this movement led to many, albeit overdue, but nevertheless important changes in our society. Number 5, despite the horrors of the pandemic, the scientists responded with unprecedented speed to find a vaccine for COVID-19, and the United States is now one of the world leaders in vaccine rollout. Despite being incredibly challenging, this year was the most influential and important year in my life by far, as I learned more about myself and the world than I could have ever possibly imagined. I became a legal adult and voted in my first election. I worked at a restaurant for the first time. I applied and committed to a college. I started volunteering at a hospital to find a meeting during the pandemic. I reconnected with old friends. I found new hobbies and went back to old ones. I tried to live life more slowly. I took more control of my mental and physical health, and I feel like I truly became myself. But despite all of these good things, my life is far from perfect. But thinking about all of these things helps me realize that I am more than equipped to tackle anything that life throws at me. I know that this year has been stressful, depressing, exhausting, and scary. But I challenge all of you to reflect on this past year. What did you learn? What challenged you? How did you grow? And how are you going to use all of this to ensure a brighter future for you, your friends, your family, and the world? Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.
Talia, that was just beautiful, moving, inspiring, text-based, and may I just say, as someone who I hope offers a little bit of inspiration each week through the sound of my voice and delivery of a sermon, you did it just beautifully. It was not just hopeful in its message, it was hopeful because you put yourself into the text and into the message you offered. And that is inspiring in and of itself. And may I just add, while I'm singing your praises as I should be, that living life more slowly is perhaps the best advice we can follow. I know that sometimes, because of the ubiquity of cell phones and computers and having every single fact in the world at our fingertips within a millisecond, it causes us maybe to sometimes be impatient or speed up our lives. It's harder to slow it down, given all the stimulus around us. And yet, I think nothing could be more important. Too often, we're busy looking at our phones. Too often, we're taking in facts that's speeding us up. learning to slow down as you have during this past year is a valuable lesson for us all, and one that I will not soon forget. Thank you for your words of wisdom. Mazel tov on selecting the college of your choice. I know it was your first choice, so it's even more exciting. And you've given us all a lot to think about and done it so well. Yesher koach. It's now my pleasure to remind us that we are in the midst of the Omer, as we were all painfully reminded this week when a source of celebration at Lag BaOmer turned into a source of sadness and tragedy. But we continue on because the journey is not always one of happiness. Sometimes there are detours, and sometimes our path is not quite as straight as we hoped it would be. And so tonight we remember this is the 34th day, and I will say a blessing and then offer the counting. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanav mitzvotav v'tzivano al sfirat haomer. Our praise to you, Adonai, sovereign of all, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to count the Omer. Hayom shloshim va'arba'a yom shehem arba'a shavuot v'shesh yamim la'omer. Today is the 34th day, which is 4 weeks and 6 days of the Omer. Amen. Our service now continues on page 586, and we rise for the Aleinu. Page 586.
Page 586 for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, lateit gedula liyotzeh bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam. Vanachnu korim umishtachavim umodim livnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. 591. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu. Bayom hahu yihyeh Adonai echad, ushemo echad. At this time we remember okay. Before we do the Mourner's Kaddish, and I apologize, it's my fault. I did not see the cue for the Aleinu, and I understand that there will be a Bikti video leading us in the Aleinu. So let us continue to stand as we see Bikti leading us in the Aleinu, page 586.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'teit gedula liyotzeh bereshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kachem, v'gor aleinu ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Thank you so much, Caleb. At this time, we remember those who have died in recent days, those whose families are in the midst of Shiva or Shloshim, the most intensive periods of mourning. We remember Stephen Manassian, beloved father of Diane Manassian, father-in-law of Ivan Wolfson, our president, and grandfather of Rafi and Tamar Wolfson. Leonard Cohen, beloved father of Stephen Cohen, father-in-law of Laura Cohen, and grandfather of Josh and Riley Cohen. Nancy Hill, beloved mother of Michael Hill, mother-in-law of Jill Glickman, and grandmother to Rachel and Sarah Hill. And of course, we remember and think of all who mourn and all who died in Israel on Lag BaOmer, the unspeakable tragedy of 45 deaths in the land of Israel, near Tzfat. Celebration turned to sadness. And I hope and pray we might learn lessons from this, so that those who die will not have died in vain, but rather will have died in teaching us about how to gather safely, responsibly, and in peace and security. Our thoughts and prayers go out to all those families in mourning today. We also recall those who died at this time in years past, those whose yahrzeits are observed on this Shabbat. We remember Jim Hutchinson, beloved Grampy of the Blaine family. Alan Cohen, beloved father of Evan Cohen. Harry Gordon Sheary, beloved father of Patricia Buff. Helene Glantz, sister-in-law of Seymour Glantz. Elsie Cohen Pearl, beloved mother of Roberta Pearl Lamb, beloved grandmother of David Lamb. Helen Svanken, beloved grandmother of Jocelyn Kaplan. Rachel Elizabeth Feldman, beloved niece of Esther Ruth Rumpler. Celia Farber Rumpler, beloved mother of Leonard Rumpler. Anna Weinberg, beloved step-grandmother of Andrea Russell. Joseph Weissman, beloved grandfather of Andrea Russell. And Ruth Rolnick, beloved mother of Charles Sherman. Zichronam livracha, may their memories always be remembered for a blessing. As we praise God's name and pray the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598, please join me. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon of yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal. Shemei d'kudasha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlam rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, V'imru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen.
Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevet.
I'd like to now call upon the president of BICTI, Jared Silverman, to offer announcements and, of course, to welcome everyone once again to the service. Jared is very accustomed to doing things like this. He is a wonderful announcer.
Hello, everyone. I'd just like to take this moment to thank everyone for attending our service. I'd also like to thank everyone in BICTI who contributed something, various forms. Some people wrote poems, the musical accompaniments, things like that. And I'm hoping that everyone found something that stuck with them and maybe they'll take it with them and think about it throughout this next week. Also like to thank Michael Blaine because he's being on the back end of all the Zoom, running all the service. It's just amazing everything that Michael Blaine does to make this all happen. There's a reason that everyone thanks him at every moment. I'd also like to thank Rabbi and David for helping us build this wonderful service and making sure we're staying on track. And finally, I'd like to thank our religious and cultural chair, Caleb, for putting together. He definitely put in more work to this than I did. He definitely took the lead and he had us work in small groups to make sure everything got done. And it's just remarkable. And in other BICTI news, I don't have anything specific on event dates, but we're not done for the year. You should be on the lookout because we have at least one more good event planned this year. And also our annual elections will be in June. So if any interested 7th graders who are interested in joining, since now they can, or any 8th through 11th graders who'd like to join as well are welcome, and more details on that will be out soon. So again, thank you everyone for coming and see you around at some point.
Jared, thank you so much. Jared, we're accustomed to seeing Jared at our board meetings as our BICTI delegate. BICTI did that a couple of years ago. Starting a couple of years ago, they were always welcome to come, but often students had too many commitments that they couldn't make it. But a few years ago, I can't remember who came first, but the last couple of years, I know for sure Zan Maddock, Mark, and Jared have come to almost every meeting that we've had at the temple. Actually, I think every single meeting. And it's inspiring, but not just because you show up, because of the way you speak and the way you carry yourself and what you say and how you say it. And I think that really matters. And I think you've learned that from your fantastic parents and teachers over the years that have equipped you so well for what life is throwing at us. Well done. I'll cavell later.
Yes, Shakoch, beautifully done. And it speaks to the commitment, to the dedication of BICTI, but also, if I might add, Michael and Blaine and David have worked tirelessly on putting together this service, and their efforts really, I appreciate them so much. And I want all of you to know that they're putting together a service as complex as this one with so many different videos. It's not easy to do, and it's just worked out so beautifully and inspiring us. And once again, thanks to Talia for her Devar Torah and for all who've sung, who've played, who wrote poetry. You just did a fantastic job. So thank you so much for giving us this service and for offering hope in some very difficult times.
Rabbi, guess what?
What?
Just like BICTI, we are not done. Religious school
yeah.
is going to be in person on Sunday, 9:30, different time than you're used to probably. Usually we have Hebrew at 9:15 or Tefillah at 10. This time we're splitting the difference, 9:30 in our parking lot. And afterwards, after a 45-minute Tefillah in person, we ask you to join us for planting and sign making so that we can greet people back into this area when it's time and appropriate. Of course, social distancing policies are going to be in place. You should look out for that soon, information about that soon. So that's this coming Sunday, the 2nd. But if you jump 2 weeks, not only is it yours truly's birthday, but we're going to have a religious school picnic here. Bring your own food, sit far away, be safe. But the 16th, 4:00 p.m., we're going to have a religious school picnic here. Sorry, 4:30 p.m. And then our confirmation families are going to be staying for the confirmation service, which you're welcome to view right here on our YouTube channel. And our confirmation families will be inside the sanctuary with us. So we're very excited about that. Hopefully you'll be able to join us in some way in the next 2 weeks.
Thank you, David. And also just a quick announcement, beginning in June, on 4 Tuesdays in June, from the 1st to the 22nd, I'll be offering a course, adult ed, called Judaism and Otherness. You will can read more about it both in the e-blast and in your Temple Habanim bulletin, which should be arriving very, very shortly. So looking forward to teaching that class on Tuesday nights from 7 to 8:30. All right, let's do Kiddush and Motzi. Come on over here. Well, maybe come over here. Yeah. As we sanctify this day of rest, this day of refreshment, and this day of celebration of our youth, this Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim. And of course, if you happen to have a challah handy and nearby, or a loaf of bread, or whatever it is you're celebrating with tonight, to say thank you to God for providing us a bread from the earth, please join us for the Motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Say avon, everybody. Shabbat shalom.
Well, Bikti, it's not quite the same. I've actually missed your last 2 years' services. I can't remember exactly what I was doing, but I know I wasn't here. And I heard about it from all these people in different ways. I remember even one year that Alan Goodis, the Jewish musician, came and did Skype calls with us, and then we worked together and we were here. Maybe did some kind of mural of some type. We've had a lot of different services. Caleb, I want to thank you so much. If you guys don't know what a supermensch is, Caleb, he's right there. He's a really nice guy. He's always on the ball. And Caleb, the way you speak to people and approach life will only make you soar. It's really exciting to watch. Jared, thank you for all your support with Bikti and the Bikti board. Talia, yeah, you blew us away. That was fantastic. When I saw it, I loved it. And the second time it was even better. Thank you to all of you who made Sarah and Sophie, your poems, Ellie, your oboe playing, Chloe, your piano playing, and Jason, your piano playing, all of your chanting, different iyuns, intros that you guys gave. Your heart is in it. And we see it in glimmers on Tuesday night for high school. And we see more of it on Sunday for sure when you're together. But there's just something about being together as a group. And it's been fun to watch you grow. And I'll be mushy at another time. But I really care about you guys, and I'm really proud of how far you've come. And I haven't asked you about colleges specifically. So if you haven't told me where you're going, tell me so I don't have to ask you. Okay. We're going to close tonight with Sydney Duncan singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. This is a beautiful rendition of the song, and I'm really grateful to Sydney and really all of Big D who took the time and the effort to make this possible. And lastly, of course, Michael Blaine, who saves me in moments of crisis and is really sort of like it's like having 18 arms pop out of my back to be able to do the things that I need to do. And Michael, I'm just so grateful for you and your friendship and your collegiality. So thank you so much. Yeah, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Sydney Duncan.
Some place where there isn't any trouble. Do you suppose there is such a place, Toto? There must be. It's not a place you can get to by a boat or a train. It's far, far away. Behind the moon, beyond the rain.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble smells like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, birds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
Thank you, Sydney. A much needed message of hope. Beautifully sung. We wish you all a Shabbat Shalom. We will see you tomorrow morning for Torah study. Wishing you a good evening and a Shabbat of hope and peace. Good night, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
Yasher Koach.
Yasher
Shabbat
Koach.
Shalom.